They've got the looks, the courage, and the power to change the game. In a world that once demanded silence, these 5 men chose to be seen. They turned vulnerability into strength, identity into art. They're not just models, not just creators. They're rewriting masculinity and queerness on their own terms. So get ready. This isn't just a list. One of them will shock you, and one might change how you see yourself. Nyle DiMarco. He didn't just break into the industry, he broke it wide open. When Nyle DiMarco first appeared on television, most people saw a handsome man with striking eyes and a jawline sculpted for fashion magazines. But what they didn't see, at least not right away, was the revolution he was quietly preparing to lead. Born completely deaf into a multi-generational deaf family, Nyle grew up in a world where silence wasn't a limitation. It was a language, a culture, an identity. And when he stepped into the spotlight, he didn't leave that part of himself behind. He brought it with him, fully, proudly, unapologetically. Winning America's Next Top Model and later Dancing with the Stars wasn't just a personal victory. It was a seismic cultural moment. Nyle wasn't breaking barriers, he was removing them. One smoldering look, one defiant step at a time. His presence on screen, elegant, grounded, and magnetic, forced audiences to question every outdated notion they had about ability, beauty, and belonging. He didn't speak with his voice, he spoke with his presence. And the world listened. But Nyle wasn't content with being just a symbol. Off the runway and outside the spotlight, he became a fierce advocate for deaf rights, LGBTQ+ representation, and inclusive education. He created the Nyle DiMarco Foundation, spoke at universities, challenged Hollywood to cast authentically, and made it clear visibility wasn't enough. Real change needed volume, even if it wasn't spoken out loud. To many, he's an icon. To others, a role model. But at his core, Nyle is simply a man who refused to be boxed in by sound, by stereotype, or by expectation. His beauty might have opened doors, but it's his fearless authenticity that's kept them wide open for the ones coming after. And just when you thought that kind of raw honesty was rare, Zander Hodgson appeared and brought his own kind of truth to the surface. Zander Hodgson wasn't born for the spotlight, but somehow, the light always found him. Raised in a small English town, he didn't grow up chasing fame or fashion. He was quiet, curious, drawn more to books and silence than cameras and crowds. But beauty, like truth, has a way of surfacing. And when it did, Zander found himself pulled into a world of flashing lights and fast attention. Modeling wasn't his plan. It was a doorway. One that would test not just his image, but his identity. He became the face of campaigns, the body behind glossy pages. But inside there was dissonance. The industry wanted perfection. Zander had questions. It wasn't about being gay, it was about when, how, and if he could say it out loud. There was fear of being judged, of being typecast, of being made small in a world that already felt too loud. So for years he played the part. The charming Brit with the good looks and mysterious smile, until that mask got too heavy to carry. In 2018, Zander did something that felt terrifying and necessary. He came out, not in a headline or press release, but through a raw Instagram video, shaky with emotion, unfiltered in truth. "I'm gay," he said, simply, and it landed like thunder. From that moment on, Zander stopped posing for other people's comfort. He began speaking up about queerness, mental health, masculinity, and softness. He didn't want to be your fantasy, he wanted to be real. And in doing that, he became something far more powerful than an icon. He became a mirror for anyone learning to love who they are. And just when it felt like the conversation couldn't get more intimate, Reece King entered and brought a whole new edge to the table. Reece King didn't just step into the modeling world. He stormed into it with a look that dared you to blink. With striking features, bold jewelry, and tattoos that told their own stories, he quickly became a standout in a sea of sameness. But what truly set Reece apart wasn't what he wore, it was what he didn't hide. From the start, he refused to conform. He challenged beauty standards, broke gender norms, and wore his identity like a crown, not an apology. Born and raised in Essex, England, Reece was a mixed-race queer teen navigating two worlds that often refused to understand each other. Fashion offered him a way out, but more importantly, a way in. He wasn't just posing for pictures, he was making statements. And when he came out as bisexual in 2018, it wasn't part of a campaign or a carefully crafted reveal. It was casual, human. He simply lived his truth. And in doing so, gave permission to thousands of others to live theirs. He became a symbol not just of representation, but of resistance. But behind the lens, Reece is more than a model, he's a storyteller. Whether through interviews, poems, or tweets that cut like truth serums, he speaks about loneliness, masculinity, and the pressure to be invulnerable. He talks about softness, about survival, about what it means to be queer, black, and visible in a world that often misunderstands all three. And he does it without pretense, without performance, just honesty and a whole lot of fire. And just when you think no one else could match that intensity, Laith Ashley walks in and rewrites everything you thought you knew. Laith Ashley. Laith Ashley didn't walk into the room quietly. He arrived. His presence is commanding, not just because of his physique, but because of the energy. A quiet strength, a magnetic calm. He became one of the first transgender male models to break into the mainstream, but Laith never asked to be a first. He simply refused to be a never. With every photo shoot, every runway, every unapologetic Instagram post, he told the world, trans men exist, and they are beautiful. Before he was a model, Laith was a singer, a dancer, an athlete, and a boy trying to make sense of a body that didn't reflect his truth. Born and raised in New York to Dominican parents, his early life was layered with culture, faith, and unspoken expectations. For years, he battled inward, the kind of silent war so many trans people fight long before they speak a word. Coming out wasn't just about identity, it was about survival. And when he finally did, he didn't just step into himself, he stood tall. Today, Laith uses his platform not just to model clothes, but to model possibility. He speaks on panels, stars in campaigns, and sings from the heart. A true multi-hyphenate. But what hits hardest isn't just his success, it's his stillness. He's not performing, he's existing, fully, proudly, fearlessly. In a world that's still learning how to talk about trans lives, Laith doesn't explain. He embodies. He doesn't fight for space, he owns it. And in doing so, he makes room for everyone, still finding the courage to be seen. And just when you think this lineup couldn't get more powerful, Chella Man enters and turns silence into something that sings. Chella Man. Chella Man is a force you don't see coming, and once you do, you can't look away. Death, trans, Chinese American, artist, activist. There are labels, sure, but none of them can quite hold him. He's not here to fit into boxes, he's here to tear them down. Chella didn't rise through traditional fame, he built his own path. Through YouTube, through raw, personal storytelling, through art that pulses with truth. Every post, every video, every brushstroke is a declaration. I exist, and I won't be quiet about it. Growing up in Pennsylvania, Chella felt like a living contradiction. Too many things at once in a world that wanted simplicity. He lost his hearing in early childhood. He realized he was trans in his teens. And he came out into a culture that wasn't built to understand any of it. But instead of folding inward, he turned pain into power. His videos didn't just go viral, they sparked conversations. Suddenly, Chella wasn't just telling his story. He was giving language to others who didn't yet have the words. But Chella Man is more than his advocacy. He's a creator in every sense, from fashion campaigns to fine art, from sci-fi short films to TED Talks. In 2019, he made headlines playing Jericho, a mute superhero on DC's Titans. Not just a casting win, but a cultural shift. He wasn't a metaphor or a symbol, he was representation. Honest, bold, real. And that's what makes Chella different. He doesn't just demand visibility, he offers it, as a gift to anyone who's ever felt invisible. Because for Chella, art is not decoration, it's survival. Identity is not a burden, it's a masterpiece. And being different, that's the point. So now we turn it to you. Of the 5 powerful voices you've just met, Who moved you the most? Which story left a mark, stirred something real, or made you feel seen? Tell us in the comments. Which one of these inspiring men do you admire, relate to, or idolize the most? We're listening, and we'd love to know.